The great hall of the Union of Worlds was filled with voices. Hundreds of delegates from different colonies sat in their seats, watching the man at the center. His hands were bound with glowing restraints, and 2 armored guards stood on each side. His name was Rin, but across the stars, people had given him another name, the Predator. For years, Rin had been a shadow of fear. Reports of him destroying pirate crews, mercenary gangs, and even soldiers filled every broadcast. Some said he killed without mercy. Some said he was more beast than man. He had never explained his actions, and now he stood before the highest court of the Union, finally captured. The presiding judge, an elder with silver hair, raised her hand for silence. The crowd slowly grew quiet, though the anger in their eyes remained. Rin of no colony, also called the Predator, the judge spoke, her voice clear and cold. You have been found guilty of countless crimes. You took lives without order, without law, and without loyalty to any world. For your actions, this court has decided your sentence. Tomorrow, at sunrise, you will be executed. Do you understand? Rin lifted his head. His eyes were calm, almost too calm for a man who had been condemned. He looked at the judge, then at the sea of faces that hated him. He gave no defense. No plea. No cry for mercy. Instead, he gave a short nod. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some shouted, and some demanded that the execution happen immediately. The guards pulled Rin away, their weapons ready in case he resisted. But he did not fight. He walked with steady steps, silent, as if death was nothing more than another path. Among the officials, one person did not cheer. Commander Mara sat in the observer's seat, watching him closely. She was young compared to most leaders, her uniform sharp and her eyes sharper. She had studied reports about Rin for months. Every file painted him as a monster, but she noticed something different. His kills were brutal, yes, but often they were against pirates, raiders, or smugglers who preyed on the weak. In some reports, civilians were left unharmed, though no one had connected the pattern. Mara wondered if there was something behind his violence, something the court had chosen not to see. When the hall emptied, Mara remained in her seat, deep in thought. Most people saw only a criminal ready to be destroyed. She saw a weapon. And weapons, if guided, could protect instead of destroy. That night, in the prison block beneath the hall, Rin sat alone. His cell was dark, lit only by the faint glow of his restraints. He leaned against the wall, his expression unreadable. He was not afraid. He had lived too long with death near his shoulder to fear it now. The door hissed open, and footsteps echoed. Rin looked up and saw a figure step inside. It was Commander Mara. She dismissed the guards at the door, asking them to wait outside. They obeyed, though they exchanged uneasy looks. Mara approached the cell, her hands behind her back. She studied him, and he studied her. Finally, she spoke. You do not fear death. That is clear. Rin tilted his head slightly. Fear is useless, he said, his voice low and calm. Perhaps, Mara replied. But I do not believe death is the right answer for you. That caught his attention. For the first time since his capture, a flicker of curiosity appeared in his eyes. The court disagrees. They want me gone. They want safety, Mara said. But sometimes, safety does not come from removing danger. Sometimes, it comes from turning danger into strength. Rin gave a short laugh. You speak like a strategist. But I am no soldier. I am a predator, as they call me. Why would you think I could be anything else? Mara did not step back from his words. She moved closer, her eyes steady. Because I have read every report. You killed many, yes. But you killed those who preyed on others. You destroyed raiders who hunted colonies. You cut down pirates who captured trade ships. You killed soldiers, but only those sent to stop you. You are not lawless. You are selective. Silence filled the room. Ren leaned forward slightly, his restraints glowing brighter with his movement. And what do you think that means, Commander? It means, Mara said firmly, that you are dangerous, but not without reason. I believe your skills could be used for something greater than your death. Tomorrow, the court will execute you. But tonight, I am offering you another path. Ren's eyes narrowed. Another path? Yes, Mara answered. Work for me. Serve on missions where no law can reach. Fight enemies that ordinary soldiers cannot face. You will not be free, not yet, but you will live. And more than that, you will fight for humanity, not against it. For a long moment, Ren said nothing. He leaned back against the wall, his gaze on the floor. Then, slowly, he raised his eyes again. And if I refuse? Then you die tomorrow, Mara said simply. Her voice carried no threat, only truth. Ren studied her. He saw no fear in her eyes, no weakness, only conviction. For years, he had been hunted like an animal, judged as a beast. Now, for the first time, someone spoke to him as if he had a choice, as if he was still a man. Finally, he gave a slow nod. Very well, Commander. I will walk your path. Not because I believe in your union. Not because I seek redemption. But because I will not die in a cage. Mara's lips curved into the faintest smile. That is enough for now. She pressed a control on the wall, and the restraints on his arms dimmed. The guards outside shifted nervously as she left the cell. Ren followed, his steps silent, his expression unreadable. The path of death had been set for him by the court, but now a new path stretched before him. A path of shadows and battles, guided by a commander who saw more than a monster. The night before his execution had turned into something different. Instead of preparing for death, Ren found himself aboard a small transport ship moving quietly through the black sea of stars. Commander Mara stood at the front of the cabin, speaking with the pilot. Two guards sat behind Ren, their weapons ready, but their hands were uneasy. None of them understood why the prisoner who was supposed to die at sunrise was being moved under Mara's command. Ren sat still, his eyes half closed. He was listening, always listening. Every sound of the ship, every whisper of the crew, every shift of the engines, he noticed. A predator never stopped watching. When the ship entered the safety of deep space, Mara turned back to face him. You agreed to my offer, she said firmly. But I need to hear it again. Speak it, so there is no doubt. Will you serve on missions under my command? Ren opened his eyes slowly. His voice was calm. I will fight under your command, but not because I owe the Union. I fight because I refuse to die useless. The guards shifted nervously, but Mara only nodded. That is enough for now. You will earn your place with action, not words. The ship traveled for several hours before reaching a hidden outpost near the edge of Union space. From the outside, it looked like a dead rock floating among stars. But as the ship approached, hidden gates opened, revealing a hangar built inside the asteroid. The transport landed smoothly, and the group stepped out. Inside, the outpost was alive with activity. Mechanics worked on ships, soldiers trained in combat drills, and officers studied maps of distant sectors. This was no ordinary base. It was a place for missions that could not be made public. Mara led Ren through the hangar. The soldiers around them stopped what they were doing and stared. Whispers filled the air. Some pointed. Some frowned. They all recognized him. The Predator, the man sentenced to die, now walking beside their commander. None of them trusted him, and their eyes made that clear. Mara ignored the whispers. She brought Ren into a meeting room where a small team was waiting. 5 people sat around a table, each one chosen for skill. A tall pilot named Kale, a quiet engineer named Nira, a medical officer called Jorn, and 2 soldiers, Bren and Sira, who were known for their loyalty. Mara stood at the head of the table. "This is Rin," she announced. "You know who he is. You know what he has done. But starting today, he will be part of this unit." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Kale was the first to speak. "Commander, with respect, this man is a killer. You cannot trust him at your side." Ren leaned against the wall, saying nothing. His eyes studied each of them as if measuring their strength. Mara answered firmly. "I am not asking you to trust him. I am asking you to fight beside him. There is a mission ahead that requires skills no ordinary soldier has. Ren is dangerous, yes, but his danger will be aimed at the true enemy, not at us." Nira, the engineer, spoke softly. "And if he turns on us?" Ren finally spoke, his voice low. "If I wanted you dead, none of you would still be breathing. The only reason you are safe is because I chose not to hunt you." The room fell into silence. Bren and Sira reached for their sidearms, but Mara raised her hand. "Enough. He speaks truth. We move forward." She activated the display at the center of the table. A map of space appeared, showing red marks around several colonies. For weeks, raiders have been attacking transport ships, taking colonists as prisoners. At first, we believed they were ordinary pirates. But the raids are too organized. Too precise. Someone is guiding them. Our mission is to infiltrate one of their strongholds, rescue as many prisoners as possible, and discover who is truly behind them. She looked at Ren. "This is your chance to prove your worth." Ren studied the map. His eyes narrowed at the patterns of the raids. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "These are not pirates. Pirates scatter. Pirates strike without plan. These raids, they move like soldiers. Whoever commands them, they are not common thieves." The team exchanged glances. It was the first time they heard him speak with more than a simple answer. Mara noticed it too. She nodded. "Then you will help us find out what they really are." The next hours were filled with preparation. Kale checked the ship's engines. Nira armed the stealth systems. Jorn packed medical supplies. Bren and Sira inspected weapons, their eyes always drifting toward Rin as if waiting for him to make a wrong move. Rin himself did not ask for gear. Instead, he walked quietly through the base, memorizing its layout, watching the soldiers train, studying the ships. A few soldiers tried to provoke him with angry words, but he did not respond. He saved his strength for when it mattered. That night, before departure, Mara called him aside. They stood near the viewing deck, stars stretching endlessly before them. "You understand what this means, Rin," she said. "If you betray this team, there will be no second chance." Rin's eyes reflected the starlight. "I have no reason to betray them. You gave me a choice when no one else did. For now, that is enough." Mara searched his face for lies but found only calm. She nodded once. "Then we leave at dawn." When the team finally boarded their ship, the atmosphere was tense. Kale sat at the controls, Sira and Bran strapped in with weapons close. Nero worked quietly at the systems, and Jorn checked medical packs. Ren sat apart from them, silent, waiting. The ship rose from the hangar and slipped into space. Stars blurred as the engines pushed them forward. For the team, this mission was another test of loyalty to their commander. For Ren, it was the first step on a path away from the execution chamber. But in the back of his mind, he knew one truth. He was still a predator. And predators did not survive by obeying laws. They survived by being stronger, sharper, and faster than the enemy. He would fight, yes, but the question remained when the blood began to spill, Would the team see him as an ally or as the monster they feared? The ship cut through the silent sea of stars, its hull cloaked with stealth systems. Inside, the crew prepared for what lay ahead. The target was a hidden base where raiders kept their prisoners. It was said to be deep inside an asteroid field, a place where normal ships would not dare to enter. Kale piloted with steady hands, his eyes sharp as the rocks drifted by. Nira guided the sensors, watching for hidden signals. Bren and Sira polished their weapons, both glancing often at Rin, who sat calmly in the corner, his eyes half closed as if waiting for something. The tension was thick. The soldiers trusted Mara, but they did not trust the man beside them. He was the predator, the one who had been marked for death only yesterday. To them, it felt like carrying a wild beast inside their ship. Mara stood near the map display. Her voice was steady when she spoke. The base lies ahead. Remember the mission. We go in fast, silent, and bring out the prisoners. We cannot fight a war here. We strike and vanish. Bran frowned. And what if this beast decides he enjoys the killing too much? His eyes were locked on Rin. Rin opened his eyes slowly. If I wanted to kill, you would already be dead, he said calmly. His words carried no anger, only cold truth. Sira tightened her grip on her rifle. Mara raised her hand to silence them both. Enough. We need focus, not fear. The ship slipped deeper into the asteroid field. The rocks turned larger, and shadows grew darker. Nira adjusted the sensors. Picking up faint signals, she said. Hidden power sources. The base is close. Kale narrowed his eyes. Then hold tight. This will not be a smooth ride. The ship twisted between jagged stone, scraping past fields of ice and rock. Finally, the sensors lit up. A vast asteroid appeared, its surface cracked with hidden gates. Small raider ships patrolled the area, their lights cutting through the dark. Too many guards, Bran muttered. We cannot land unseen. Mara turned her eyes to Rin. Suggestions. Rin stepped forward, studying the map. His finger traced the asteroid's surface. Here, he said quietly. A vent system leads into the base. It is narrow, but large enough for a few people. They will not guard it. That is where predators strike from the blind spot. Kale frowned. How do you know this? Rin's eyes remained on the map. Because I would have built it the same way. Mara gave a sharp nod. Then that is our entry. Kale, bring us close to the vent. Rin, you go first. Bren, Sira, you follow him. Nira and Jorn stay with the ship. The plan was set. The ship drifted to the shadow of the asteroid. A small hatch opened, and the boarding team stepped out into the dark. The void of space pressed against them, silent and endless. Their suits carried small thrusters, enough to guide them to the vent. Ren moved first. His body flowed through the dark as if he belonged there. Bren and Sira followed, their movements stiff and cautious. Mara brought up the rear, her eyes never leaving Ren. The vent was narrow and cold, lined with metal frost. They crawled through it in silence until a faint glow appeared ahead. Voices echoed from the chamber beyond. Ren raised his hand, signaling the others to stop. He pressed his ear to the wall, listening. His voice was a whisper. 2 guards. Lightly armed. Not alert. Bran frowned. We should wait for the commander's signal. But Ren did not wait. In a swift motion, he slipped through the vent and dropped into the chamber. Before the guards could react, he moved. One strike to the throat, one twist of the wrist, and the first guard fell silently. The second reached for his weapon, but Ren's arm locked around his neck, pulling him into the shadows until he stopped moving. The others dropped into the chamber seconds later. Bran's eyes widened. You moved without orders. Ren glanced at him. Orders are slow. Silence is faster. Mara's gaze was sharp, but she said nothing. The mission had not been exposed. For now, that was enough. They moved deeper into the base. The corridors were dim, filled with the smell of oil and smoke. Faint cries echoed from the distant prisoners. They reached a large chamber where cages lined the walls. Dozens of colonists sat behind the bars, their faces pale and fearful. A group of raiders stood guard, talking loudly, unaware of the danger creeping toward them. Mara raised her hand. "We take them out together." Quiet, then fast. But before she could signal, Ren was already moving. He slid through the shadows, striking the first raider down before a sound could escape. His blade flashed, his body flowed like a hunting beast. In moments, 3 guards were gone, their bodies silent on the floor. The last raider turned in shock, opening his mouth to shout. Bran fired first, his shot burning through the raider's chest. The prisoners gasped, some crying in relief, others in fear of the sight before them. Mara rushed forward, pulling out a control device from the fallen raider's belt. With quick hands, she unlocked the cages. "You are safe now. We are here to take you home." The colonists stumbled out, weak but alive. Jorn's medical training was needed, so Mara called for him through the COMM. Moments later, he arrived with supplies, tending to the wounded. But Ren was not watching the prisoners. His eyes were fixed on the walls, the doors, the silence of the base. Something was wrong. Too easy, too quiet. He turned to Mara. "This is a trap. They left the guards weak because they wanted us to come." Before she could answer, alarms screamed through the base. Red lights flashed, and heavy doors slammed shut. Dozens of armed raiders poured in from every side. Bran cursed and raised his rifle. "We are surrounded." Mara's voice was sharp. "Defend the prisoners. Hold the line." Ren stepped forward, his eyes burning with cold fire. His voice was steady. "Then let them come." The raiders rushed in, their weapons firing, their shouts echoing through the chamber. The crew braced for the storm, the prisoners screaming behind them. And in that moment, the Predator revealed why he was feared. He moved faster than any soldier, striking with precision, cutting down enemies before they could react. His body flowed like shadow and fire, and every raider that faced him fell in silence. The crew fought hard, but it was Ren who turned the tide. By the time the last raider fell, the chamber was filled with smoke and silence. The prisoners stared at Ren with wide eyes, some in awe, some in fear. Bran lowered his weapon slowly. "He is not a man. He is something else." Mara's eyes locked on Ren. He stood in the center of the fallen, calm and steady, his breathing even. For the first time, she saw the truth. The chamber was silent except for the heavy breathing of the crew and the cries of rescued prisoners. Smoke from blaster fire drifted through the air, mixing with the metallic scent of battle. Bodies of raiders lay scattered across the floor, most of them taken down by Ren's hands. His strikes had been precise and brutal, each one ending a life before the enemy even understood what was happening. Bran stared at him, his weapon still raised, though the fight was over. "He is not fighting like a soldier," Bran muttered. "He fights like something wild." Sira said nothing, but her eyes were sharp with distrust. She kept her rifle aimed low but ready, as if one wrong move from Ren would make her fire. Mara stood between them, her expression unreadable. She looked at the fallen raiders, then at the rescued colonists huddled together in fear. Finally, her eyes settled on Ren. "Good work," she said firmly. Her voice carried control, though inside she felt the same unease the others did. Ren had saved them, but he had done it with a violence that unsettled even hardened soldiers. The prisoners were escorted back to the ship, Jorn guiding the weak and injured while Kale kept the engines warm. Mara walked last, keeping close to Ren. He moved silently, his steps calm, but his hands still flexed as though ready to strike again. When they reached the ship and the hatch sealed shut, Mara finally spoke. "We did what we came for. But the alarms mean the enemy will not stop here. We need to leave quickly." Kale pulled the ship away from the asteroid, dodging debris as enemy ships scrambled to chase them. The stealth systems held, and soon they slipped back into the safety of deep space. The crew gathered in the common chamber once the prisoners were secure. Tension filled the air. Bran leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Commander, this cannot continue. That man is not stable. Did you see him? He was enjoying it. He was lost in it." Rin's eyes flicked to Bran, cold and steady. "I did what was needed. Without me, you would all be dead." "That is not the point," Bran snapped. "You fight like an animal. You do not know control." Syrah crossed her arms, her voice low but firm. "He is right. We are soldiers. We fight with discipline, with order. You kill as if nothing matters." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the chamber. Then Mara raised her hand. "Enough. Both of you." She turned to Rin. "They are not wrong. You saved lives, but you crossed a line. You pushed too far." Rin's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, but beneath it was a growl. "A predator who holds back dies. If you hesitate, you are dead. If you strike without strength, you are dead. I survive because I do not hold back." Mara stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Survival is not enough. If all you do is survive, you are no different from the raiders we fought today. You must fight with purpose, Rin. Not only with instinct." Her words struck deeper than she expected. Rin's eyes darkened, as if shadows passed over him. For a long moment, he said nothing. Finally, he spoke. "Purpose. That word belongs to soldiers and commanders. Not to me." Mara did not move back. "It belongs to you as well, whether you want it or not. If you stay with us, you will learn it. Or you will destroy yourself and everyone around you." The crew watched in silence, the air thick with tension. Rin stared at Mara, his hands tightening into fists. For a moment, it seemed he might strike her, but then he released his grip. He turned away, his voice low. "We will see." The meeting ended with no peace between them. The crew remained wary, their eyes following Rin wherever he went. Even the rescued colonists kept their distance, whispering in fear of the man who had saved them with such merciless strength. Later that night, Mara found him alone in the viewing deck. He stood before the wide glass, watching the endless stars drift past. His arms were folded, his body still, but his mind was restless. "You watch the stars as if they might speak to you," Mara said as she approached. Rin did not look at her. "They do speak. They say nothing lasts. Stars burn, worlds fall, and men die. That is truth." Mara stood beside him. "And yet, even knowing that, we still fight to protect what we can. That is the difference between us and those raiders." Rin's eyes narrowed. "You think I am the same as them?" "I think you are close," Mara said honestly. "Too close. But I also think you can be more. If you choose." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Rin spoke, his voice quieter. "I was not always like this. Once, long ago, I fought for something. But it was taken. After that, I stopped caring. I killed because it was the only thing I had left." Mara turned to face him. "Then maybe it is time to care again. You cannot change the past. But you can decide what you are now." For the first time, something flickered in Rin's eyes, doubt, or perhaps memory. He did not answer, but he did not turn away from her words. The next day, the crew delivered the rescued colonists to a safe world. Families wept with joy as they embraced loved ones, thanking the crew for their courage. Many bowed their heads to Mara. None approached Rin. They looked at him with fear, as if he was a shadow even in the light of freedom. As the ship prepared to leave, Bran muttered under his breath. "One day, he will turn on us. Mark my words." Mara heard but did not reply. She knew the risk was real. Yet she also knew something else. Beneath Rin's calm, beneath his violence, there was a man searching for something lost. A man who could still be guided. When the ship lifted into the stars once more, Mara gave her next command. "Set course for Union space. We have reports to deliver and answers to demand. Whoever commands those raiders, we will find them." Rin stood at the back of the chamber, silent, watching her. For now, he obeyed. But deep inside, the beast within him stirred, waiting for the day it would no longer listen to reason. The ship returned to Union space with silence heavier than the stars around it. The rescued colonists had been delivered safely, but the mission left more questions than answers. The raiders had been too disciplined, too organized, unlike common criminals. Someone was pulling the strings from the shadows. In the briefing room, Mara stood before the crew with a data screen showing the raid patterns. Red marks spread across the colonies like wounds. Her voice was calm but firm. "These attacks are not random. They follow a pattern. Look here. Every strike happens along this corridor of space." Kale leaned forward. "That corridor connects 3 major colonies. Whoever planned this wants control of trade routes." Syrah shook her head. "But pirates don't think like that. They take what they can, then vanish. These raids are planned with military precision." All eyes turned to Rin. He had been quiet, standing in the shadows as always. Now he stepped forward, studying the map. His finger traced the lines of attack. "They move like scouts," he said quietly. "Testing defenses, striking at weak points, never staying long. This is not about supplies or prisoners. It is about learning how we fight. They are not raiders. They are soldiers." The room fell silent. Bran frowned. "Soldiers? From where? No Union world would attack its own people." Rin's eyes were cold. "Not Union. Something else." Mara watched him carefully. "You have seen this before." He gave a short nod. "Years ago, in the far sectors, before the Union reached them. There were whispers of a species called the Voran. They tested worlds before striking in full force. They used raiders, mercenaries, even slaves to do their work. They are patient. They study before they conquer." The name hung in the air like a shadow. Kale muttered, "Voran. I've heard that name in old war logs. But no one ever confirmed they were real." "They are real," Rin said firmly. "And if they are here, the Union is in danger greater than it knows." Mara closed the map. Her voice was steady. "Then we need proof. The Union Council will not act on whispers. Our next mission is to find evidence of Voran control. If we can show the truth, they will have no choice but to prepare." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Fighting raiders was one thing. Facing a hidden alien power was another. But none of them argued. The next mission came quickly. A Union scout ship had vanished near the edge of the corridor. Their task was to investigate. The journey took them days. The crew grew restless, each person dealing with the weight of what they might face. Syrah sharpened her weapons. Bran muttered about traitors and shadows. Nero worked long hours on the sensors. Kale kept his focus on piloting. Jorn tended to supplies. And Rin stayed quiet, watching everything. He spent hours in the viewing deck, eyes fixed on the stars. Mara joined him once. "You knew of the Voran before anyone else," she said. "Why did you never tell the Union?" Rin did not turn his head. "Because the Union never listened. To them, I was a criminal, a beast. They would not believe my words. And even if they had, they would not have acted until it was too late. That is what councils do. They wait. They argue. While enemies grow stronger. Mara studied him. And you? You never waited. His voice was calm. Predators cannot wait. Waiting means hunger. Waiting means death. The silence that followed said more than his words. Mara understood that Rin did not trust leaders. Perhaps he never would. But he knew the enemy better than any of them. When they reached the last known location of the scout ship, the sensors picked up debris floating in the dark. Shattered metal, drifting bodies, and black scars burned into the hulls. This was no pirate attack, Nero whispered. The cuts are too clean. Too advanced. Kale frowned as he guided the ship closer. Weapons stronger than anything raiders carry. Ren leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Look again. Do you see it? The crew stared at the wreckage. At first, they saw nothing. Then Mara saw it. Tiny marks burned into the hull, symbols carved into metal by heat. They were not human letters. The Voran, Ren said quietly. They always leave a mark. To them, it is a message. A warning that more is coming. Suddenly, the sensors blared. Dozens of ships appeared on the edge of the system. Their designs were alien, sleek, and sharp like blades of shadow. Bran cursed. They found us. Mara's voice was sharp. Kale, get us out of here. Nira, cloak us. The ship spun away as the alien vessels moved closer. Beams of energy lit the dark, slicing through the wreckage. One beam scraped across their hull, shaking the ship. Ren gripped the edge of the console. His voice was calm but urgent. Do not run in a straight line. They hunt like wolves. Break pattern, turn into the rocks. Only then can we vanish. Kale hesitated, then obeyed. The ship darted into a dense asteroid field, weaving between stone giants. The Voran ships followed, beams flashing. But Ren guided Kale with quick, precise words. Left. Now right. Cut the engine. Wait. Now thrust. Each command brought them deeper into the rocks, until finally the sensors cleared. The Voran ships passed, unable to trace them. The crew let out a breath of relief. But the relief was short. Mara turned to Ren. You knew exactly how they hunted. Ren's eyes were hard. Because I have been hunted by them before. The crew stared at him. The silence was heavy with questions. Finally, Mara asked, and did you survive? I did, Ren said. His voice was low, but there was steel in it. But no one else did. The words fell like stone. Mara looked at the crew, then at Ren. Her decision was clear. We now have proof. The Voran are real, and they are here. We return to the Union Council. They must see what we have seen. But Ren shook his head. They will not believe until the Voran strike openly. And by then, it will be too late. Mara met his eyes. Then we make them believe. That is our duty. As the ship turned back toward Union space, every member of the crew felt the weight of the mission. The Voran were no longer whispers or legends. They were hunters at the edge of the stars, testing humanity. The Union Council chamber was filled with light and voices. Holographic screens floated above the Great Hall, showing maps of the outer colonies. Leaders from across Union space stood in rows, their faces filled with pride and doubt. Mara and her crew stood near the center. Behind them, Ren waited in silence, a shadow among uniforms and polished boots. Mara spoke with strength. We have seen them. The Voran are not a story. They are real. They are testing us, striking at colonies, sending raiders. If we do not act, they will come with their full force. Some council members muttered in disbelief. One raised his hand. You bring us debris and strange marks. But no solid proof. How can we risk a war on shadows? Another shook his head. The Union has peace. We cannot send fleets chasing myths. Rin's voice cut through the hall. Peace is the mask before the strike. I have seen it before. The Voran will not ask for permission. They will come, and when they do, your peace will burn. The chamber grew silent. Every eye turned toward him. Some looked at him with fear, others with contempt. To them, he was still the Predator, a killer brought in chains. The council leader's voice was stern. You, a condemned man, expect us to believe your words. Rin's eyes were cold. Believe or not. It will not change the truth. Before Mara could argue further, alarms thundered through the hall. Red lights flashed across every screen. The voice of a security officer echoed through the chamber. Emergency alert. Outer colony of Vera under attack. Unknown fleet approaching. Civilian population at risk. The chamber erupted in shouts. Maps shifted to show the colony, one of the largest on the corridor Rin had warned about. Alien ships appeared like knives in the dark, moving with deadly speed. Mara's heart tightened. She turned to the council. This is it. The Voran are here. You wanted proof. Look at the skies above Vera. The council leader's face turned pale. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he spoke. Send all available fleets. Protect the colony. The hall emptied in chaos. Ships launched from stations. Fleets scrambled to move. Mara and her crew rushed back to their vessel. As soon as they left orbit, the stars around them filled with fire. Voran ships cut through Union defenses with frightening precision. Their weapons were sharper, their maneuvers faster. Union captains tried to respond, but their tactics were too slow. The crew watched the battle unfold with horror. Sira gripped her weapons. Bran muttered curses under his breath. Kale's hands shook as he steered through the burning sky. They are tearing us apart, Nero whispered. We are not ready for this. Mara turned to Rin. He stood calm, eyes fixed on the enemy formations. You know their ways, she said. Tell us how to fight them. Rin's voice was steady. The Voran are hunters. They strike at the weak first, isolate them, then circle in. If you fight them head-on, you lose. But if you make them chase, if you force them to break their formation, then you have a chance. Kale frowned. You want us to bait them? That's suicide. Rin's eyes narrowed. It is survival. They think like predators. You cannot outgun them, but you can outthink them. Mara looked at her crew. She saw fear in their eyes, but also trust. She nodded. We follow Rin. The ship turned sharply, racing toward the Voran line. Alien ships locked onto them instantly. Beams of light cut through the dark, chasing them. Kale's voice shook. They are right behind us. Good, Rin said calmly. Keep them close. Now dive into the wreckage field. The ship plunged into the remains of broken Union vessels. Metal fragments drifted like a graveyard. The Voran followed, but their sleek ships had less room to move. Two collided against burning debris, shattering into fire. The crew cheered, but Rin raised his hand. Do not celebrate yet. They will adapt. Kale, hard turn left. Sira, fire at the lead ship's flank. Nira, blind their sensors. Each command came sharp and precise. The crew moved as one, following him. Shots cut through enemy ships. Explosions lit the dark. The Voran formation began to break. For the first time, the Union fleet saw a weakness. They regrouped, striking at the scattered enemy. The battle turned, slowly but clearly. Mara watched as Rin gave orders with cold efficiency. He moved like a man born for this, his mind working faster than the chaos around him. She realized something in that moment. This was why he had survived when no one else did. He was not just dangerous, he was a weapon forged by survival itself. Hours passed before the Voran ships pulled back. They vanished into the dark as swiftly as they had come. Silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the burning remains of ships and the cries of survivors. The Union fleet had survived, but at a terrible cost. Dozens of ships lost. Thousands of lives gone. The colony was scarred, though still standing. In the aftermath, the council finally understood the truth. The Voran were real. They were powerful. And they would come again. Mara stood with her crew in the command room, exhaustion heavy on every face. Bran spoke first. "We should not have survived that." Cyril looked at Rin. "We only did because of him." Rin said nothing. He stood apart, eyes still on the stars, as if waiting for the next hunt. Mara walked to him. Her voice was quiet. "You saved us. You saved thousands. You gave the Union its first victory." Rin shook his head. "No victory. Only a delay. The Voran will return stronger. Today was a test. Next time will be war." His words chilled the room. But Mara placed a hand on his arm. "Then we will be ready. Because of you." For the first time, his eyes softened, just slightly. "Do not trust me too much, Commander. I am still the Predator." Mara held his gaze. "And that is exactly why we need you." The stars outside burned with the echoes of battle. Humanity had faced the Voran and survived, but only barely. The war was no longer a distant threat. It had already begun. The Union fleet had regrouped in the shadow of a nearby star. The losses from the first Voran strike were heavy, but they had survived. Mara stood on the bridge of their ship, eyes scanning the stars, her mind sharp with strategy. The Voran would come again, and this time, the attack would be larger. The fleets of the Union were strong, but against the cunning and precision of the Voran, even strength could fail. Rin stood beside her, silent as always. The crew watched him with a mixture of awe and fear. He had saved them before, but no one knew if he could do it again. Mara spoke quietly. "Rin, the Voran will not wait. We must strike first, or we lose more colonies." Rin's eyes were cold. "Striking first is dangerous. They study patterns, weaknesses, and human emotions. They know fear and hesitation. But they do not know the Predator beside you." Mara turned to the crew. "Listen to him. Follow his commands. He knows how they think." The fleet moved toward the Voran's suspected base. Sensors picked up alien vessels scattered across the dark, but this time, the Union was ready. Ships took positions, shields up, weapons primed. The Voran would expect panic. Instead, they would meet precision and planning. Rin stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes on the enemy formations. "They will attack the flanks first, hoping to divide our fleet. Use that against them. Lure them close, then trap them." Kale's hands flew over the controls. "Understood. We will follow your lead." The battle began. Voran ships surged from the darkness, sleek and deadly. Energy beams cut through the vacuum, lighting the stars like fire. Ships on both sides maneuvered aggressively. Rin moved through the bridge like a shadow. His voice was calm but commanding. "Left flank, pull back. Right flank, focus fire on the lead ships. Do not break formation. Let them overextend." Syrah's weapons fired in perfect rhythm. Bran coordinated with other soldiers. Nira managed sensor interference, masking their positions. Even Mara felt the difference. The fleet was moving as one, guided by a Predator's mind. One Voran vessel broke formation, striking at the Union center. Mara froze. "They are too fast." Rin's hand shot out. Kale, dive behind that debris field. Sira, flank left. Bren, cover the rear. Now. The ship twisted, diving through shattered asteroids. Beams missed by inches. Voran ships collided with debris, exploding in silent fire. The pattern shifted. Rin had forced them into chaos. Keep moving, he shouted. Do not let them recover. Trap them in the field. The fleet followed his commands. Each move was precise, each attack targeted. Slowly, the Voran began to falter. Ships collided, weapons overheated, formations broke. Rin's mind anticipated every strike, every counter, every trick the Voran could use. Hours passed, but the tide turned in Union favor. The Voran began retreating, their numbers shattered and scattered. The colonies they had hoped to conquer were safe for now. Mara looked at Rin. You have saved more lives than anyone else could have. You led the fleet as if you were born for this. Rin's eyes were calm, but there was a flicker of something deeper. I do not lead. I hunt. But today, the prey became allies. The crew cheered quietly. The battle was won, though the war was far from over. Ships returned to the colonies, bringing supplies, repairing damage, and helping survivors. Later, on the main deck of the fleet's command ship, Mara approached Rin. The stars reflected in his eyes, endless and cold. You could have stayed a weapon, a predator alone, she said softly. Instead, you chose to fight for others. That is no small thing. Rin did not smile. I did not choose them. I chose survival. But in survival, sometimes you protect those who cannot defend themselves. Mara studied him. Then you are more than a predator. You are a protector. For the first time, Rin allowed a small nod. It was not agreement, not acceptance, only acknowledgement. The predator had learned to see beyond himself, if only slightly. The crew gathered nearby, whispering among themselves. They had feared him, doubted him, and now they admired him. Even Bren, who had mistrusted Rin from the start, spoke quietly. He is dangerous. But we owe him our lives. Sira added, and he is human. Just a different kind of human. Mara turned back to Rin. The Voran will return. They always do. But now we know them. Now we can fight them. And I will fight by your side. Rin's eyes flicked to her, sharp and unreadable. Then you will need to be ready for the darkness. Predators do not hesitate. They strike. And we must strike before they do. The fleet moved again, toward the outer colonies. Communication with the Union Council confirmed that the Voran threat was now accepted. Strategies were being prepared. Weapons were being reinforced. Humanity had survived its first test. Rin walked through the deck, observing the soldiers, the pilots, the engineers. He had once been alone, feared, and hunted. Now, he was part of something larger. He did not fully trust it, but he understood its purpose. And Mara watched him, understanding too. The man the court had sentenced to death was no longer just a weapon. He was humanity's edge, its shadow in the dark, its most dangerous protector. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of challenges and threats. But with Rin beside them, the crew felt a spark of hope. They had survived the first strike. They would survive the next. And the predator, once alone in the dark, had found a purpose greater than survival. He had found a reason to fight for something beyond himself. The war with the Voran had only begun, but humanity had a new champion. A predator who had become a protector.